Welcome back to Labels to Legacy, the podcast where we help break limits so you can achieve your dreams. My name is Shlomo Solson, and today I'm going to be talking about a topic that holds many of us back from achieving our dreams and finding inner peace. And that is overthinking and procrastination. Have you ever been in this endless cycle of constantly replaying certain conversations in your head or worrying about what other people are thinking of you? Or maybe you're thinking of a business idea, getting into a relationship, approaching that person, starting to work out, having a career change, finding a new job. Days go by, weeks go by, months go by, years go by, and still there is no change. And trust me, I have been there. And that is why I want to create this podcast podcast episode because I'm not perfect, but I do want to share with you something that has worked for me. It has allowed me to overcome my speech impediment and my constant worry about what other people are thinking of me when I open my mouth. It has allowed me to pursue certain business ideas, start my podcast, have a career change, have relationships with certain people. And you can do this with 10 minutes a day. So if you're a person who's super busy like me, it is achievable. But you have to realize that there is no such thing as perfect action. So keep an open mind and be willing to implement some of the advice and tips that I provide you. First, let me go into why I believe procrastination and overthinking is holding you back. Here's the truth: procrastination is not protecting you, and overthinking is not making you smarter. Dr. Tim Pitchell, who's a psychologist, a professor, and procrastination expert, says procrastination is not a time management issue, it's an emotional regulation problem. That means we're trying to avoid something greater than what we actually think we're avoiding, and that is discomfort, fear of failure, fear of what other people are going to think of us. And overthinking is just an illusion. When we overthink, we think that we're running every single scenario in our head to make sure that we're making the right decision. But what's happening is when we overthink too much, it's holding us back from what we're actually trying to achieve. So I've come up with a 10-minute action plan that you can start implementing today that's going to allow you to stop overthinking and start doing. Step number one is set a 10-minute timer and take action on whatever that you have been putting off. Whether it's calling a loved one, starting a podcast, starting a business, writing a book, finding a new job, working on your relationship, whatever it is, set 10 minutes a day. And if you don't have 10 minutes a day and you're super busy, find time. Find 10 minutes a day where you put down your phone, you cut out all distraction, and you just take action for those 10 minutes. And what you're going to realize is that now, when you take 10 minutes of action a day, you get over that fear of discomfort because you're going right into whatever you're trying to achieve. Step number two, lower the bar. Perfectionism fuels overthinking. Now, when we have big goals in our mind, it stops us from taking any action because we wanted to get it right the first time. Maybe because we are overthinking too much about what other people would think of us. But guess what? Stop trying to compare yourself to someone's uh, mile 20 when it's your mile 1. Stop comparing yourself to people who are running marathons. Instead, compare yourself to someone who ran half a mile for the first time. Instead of compare yourself to someone who has 20 books, compare yourself to someone who just started writing. Instead of comparing yourself to someone who has the perfect relationship, compare yourself to someone who went through some challenges with their partner and recently overcame it. So stop comparing yourself to people who is way ahead of you and compare yourself to people who are just one or two steps ahead of you. So if you want to start running, start by running for 1 minute straight. If you want to write a book, start by writing one paragraph. If you want to start a podcast, start by creating one podcast episode. If you want to have the greatest relationships with all of your friends, start by making one phone call to a friend. You see how simple that is when we take perfectionism out of the picture? This is going to lead to step number three and kind of ties in hand is yeah, now you lower the bar, but step number three is taking imperfect action. Start by doing something, even if you're not going to be good at it the first time. 10 years ago, I wanted to get better at public speaking. I was nervous, I was afraid, but guess what? I was determined. So I joined a organization called Toastmasters. I was giving a lot of bad speeches in the beginning. I had a lot of filler words. I kept pausing, grammatical errors. I wasn't connecting with the audience. But after a few speeches, I tweaked every single speech from every single feedback that I received. And then eventually, when I joined a speech competition, I started winning all of them. And I made it to the district level, one before going to the international level in Las Vegas. And this is about 6 months into Toastmasters. But before I was winning speech competitions, I gave a lot of bad presentations. And I took people's feedback and I perfected it. But the key was I was taking imperfect action and I wasn't worrying about trying to be perfect the first time. Step number four is decide on the next step. When you do 10 minutes a day of imperfect action, you just achieved the hardest part. You've broken the cycle of inaction. And breaking the cycle of inaction is by far the hardest part of anything. If you're trying to get into fitness and you haven't been working out for years and you're working out 10 minutes a day, or maybe you've never written a book before and you used to fail at reading and writing growing up and you're writing 10 minutes a day, or maybe you're starting a podcast, you've had this idea and you want to start a podcast and you start talking 10 minutes a day. Now you have breaking that cycle. And after 10 minutes of non-negotiable action with no distraction, what's going to happen is you're going to start to feel better about yourself. Your confidence is going to increase. And then once your confidence is going to increase, when you start feeling better about yourself, you're going to want to do more of the thing that you're doing that you've been putting off. And so that 10 minutes is going to turn into 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours a day. But just start off with 10 minutes. Don't worry about trying to reach 1 or 2 hours in a day. Start off with 10 minutes. Your confidence is going to increase. And if you compound that over time in a week, in a month, in a year, in 10 years, in 20 years, think about where you're going to be with just 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes is already going to pass in a day, so might as well make something productive out of it. Now, I want to give you an example of something recent in my life. About 2.5 years ago, I was in the situation where I was working for a job I really didn't like. And in my head, I kept on thinking of, the only job I could really get is a sales job because I worked for a family startup for a long time. I didn't really have a specific title. I felt like I was a jack of all trades and master in none. So I didn't really know what type of career I wanted to get into. And so I was in the sales job. I was overworked and underpaid, underappreciated, had no work-life balance. And I kept thinking in my head, what am I going to do next? What career can I get into? And so I started off with just 10 minutes a day, researching different career paths I can get into based off of my strengths, based off of my passions. I knew I liked to speak because I used to get paid to speak. I knew I love interacting with people. That wasn't in a in a cold calling sales capacity. And I realized after being in that job, I like showing people technology because I was a go-to person to show people our client management relationship system that we were using for our own company. And I was the person people ask questions to. And I realized that I was good at showing people technology and then breaking it down easy so people could understand. And I ran across this career path called customer success manager. And it intrigued me because that's exactly what I used to do at the tech startup I was working for early on in my career, but I didn't realize that was a terminology or that was a profession. Um, it was. So I learned everything about customer success manager. I immersed myself with the knowledge every single day. I watched videos on it. I researched it. I fixed my resume based off of the jobs I wanted. I eventually quit my job to start looking for that job full time. And although it took about a year and a half to land a customer success manager position, I eventually landed one at a tech company doing exactly what I envisioned in my head, uh, 2.5 years ago. And I'm loving it. I'm doing a phenomenal job. I'm crushing it. And uh, that just shows you that if you have a vision in your head and you're thinking about something continuously, and maybe you're feeling insecure and your confidence is lower based off of what you're thinking about, that you can implement that vision in your head, turn it into action with just 10 minutes a day. So go ahead, whatever you're stressed out about, take 10 minutes of non negotiable with no distractions, action a day, 10 minutes a day. If you're stressed about money, find 10 minutes a day where you can work towards getting more money. If you're stressed out about starting a new business idea and it's been in your head for a very long time, take 10 minutes of action of starting that business idea. If you're stressed out about your job and you feel like you're burnt out and you're overworked, undervalued, find 10 minutes a day to find a new job. If you're stressed out about your health, find 10 minutes a day to work out or eat healthy. Whatever it is, non negotiable, every single day, set a 10-minute timer, take action on it, have no distractions while you're doing that, and watch your confidence go up. And eventually, that may turn into something that you have never dreamed of achieving. Sometimes you don't need to take more action. Sometimes you just need time to yourself. And if you have a lot going on in your life, you have a family, you have a job, you have a side business, you're working on your health, and you're just overstressed and thinking too much, have 10 minutes of alone time every single day. Non-negotiable, no phones around, no distractions. You can meditate, you can journal, whatever it is, just 10 minutes of alone time to really find out what your body is telling you, what your mind is telling you, what your intuition is telling you, and whatever you're feeling at that moment, that maybe you need to cut out certain things out of your life, maybe relationships or maybe certain jobs or things that are no longer serving you. Go ahead, cut those things out. Maybe you got to pivot a little bit in your life and make some changes. 10 minutes of alone time, if you have a lot going on and take a lot of action, can really make a difference on pivoting towards the life that you want to live. Thank you for listening to another podcast episode of Labels to Legacy. If there's anything I said resonated with you or this podcast episode truly did make a difference in your life, I would love to hear from you. Message me on Instagram, comment any of my posts on Instagram. I will leave my IG handle in the description. If you want to hear more tips like this, I am coming out with a new book on overthinking and procrastination. So go ahead, subscribe to whatever platform you're tuning in from. And until next time, peace.